Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Benjamin Z. Miller Investor Networking Group. We have such an exciting presentation that we're going to show today for our members. We're going to go through an interesting topic that is on wholesale real estate. We will talk about how you can flip real estate contracts for cash with no money down. So very interesting topic, and it's also a way that new investors very often start out in this real estate game. So we're going to go through some examples. I'm going to present how this works, where you understand it better. And then after that, I'm going to stop the recording. I'm going to answer any questions that anyone has. We'll go ahead and get started now. We'll talk about wholesale real estate contracting, flipping real estate contracts for fast cash, and we all like that. So let's imagine that you find an opportunity on a real estate property. And let's say that you know the property's worth more than $120,000. Imagine the property's worth maybe $200,000. Maybe the property's worth $180,000. But you find a seller and you tell that seller, hey, I want to buy your property. What will you sell it to me for? And imagine that the seller says, I'll sell it to you for $120,000. Or imagine you negotiate that price. At any rate, you sign a contract where now you've got a contract on a property and it is significantly below the true market value. So then what you do is you call up your local rehabber, your rehab investor, the one that likes to go in and fix the houses up and do all of that, because rehabbers are constantly looking for deals. Or you call up the big landlord. You call up in whatever city you're in, who is the biggest landlord in that city. And you say, hey, I've got a property and I'll sell it to you for, but you're going to change the price. You're not going to say 120,000. You're going to increase the price to 150,000. So you're going to say, I'll sell it to you for 150,000. And they do the numbers and they say, yeah, that looks good. I'll do that. So then you're going to go through some processes, and at the end, when the dust settles, you're going to walk away with a $30,000 profit, a $30,000 check from the title company. So that is how that works. And your rehabber friend is going to buy the property and go in and they're going to fix it up. They're going to do all that work. They're going to make it beautiful. So what is wholesaling real estate? Well, wholesaling real estate, it's basically a strategy where an investor, also called the wholesaler, they enter into a contract to purchase a property, even though they're not going to really buy the property. They enter into a contract to purchase the property, but their intention is they don't really want to buy the property. They intend to flip it to another investor. But in order to do that, they have to have an interest in the property, and by doing that, they have an interest in it. So the intention of the wholesaler is not to hold it for themselves. They're just looking to make some fast cash. Let's say a wholesaler, they find a property, maybe it's a house that somebody will sell for 120,000. The wholesaler signs a purchase contract where they're going to buy it for 120,000. But then they give their contract, they assign their rights in the contract to Mr. Rehabber or another investor that's maybe not so good at fast talking. Maybe they're not so good at making deals, but they're good at going and fixing up houses. So the wholesaler goes to that rehabber and says, hey, I've got a good deal. I'll sell it to you for 150. The other investor or the guy that fixes up houses, he agrees, okay, I'll do it. I'll pay you 150. And then at the title company, that's really where all the magic happens. And then the wholesaler, on the day that other investor buys it, they get a check for $30,000. Wow, that is so exciting. And this can be done over and over. So now let's go through a question that sometimes people have. They say, how can you sell something you don't own? Now, you're not the owner. How can you sell someone else's property? That's crazy. You're not a real estate agent. What the heck are you doing here? I mean, you have interjected yourself into the transaction. You come in, you're interjecting yourself in this transaction. And now you're running around at a table signing contracts, and look at what you're going to do next. You get up from that table and you go over to another table and you sell that contract to someone else. So that is basically how it works. But you know, it is so important to do everything legally and correctly. And one of the nice things about wholesaling is you're allowed to do this. You don't need a license as a real estate agent because of the law. The law allows this because you have an equitable interest in this deal. You are a principal in the transaction, and you're allowed to assign a contract because by default, in most countries in the world, contracts are assignable, unless the contract says it's not assignable. But since you're going to be producing all the paperwork that the seller signs, it's going to be assignable. So with this, you are able to transfer it. And here's how it actually works. So the assignability of contracts, it really depends on the contract language. It depends on the country law. You know, every country, they have their own laws, their own rules and regulations, and all of the circumstances. But in general, most contracts are assignable unless there's a clause that says it's not assignable. So what you want is to have a clause that says and or assigns. So you would put your name, Benjamin Z. Miller, but you'd put your name, Benjamin Z. Miller, and or assigns next to the buyer. So in the blank that says buyer, you're going to write your name and or assigns. And then at that point, you've done it, because once it's signed, you've done the hard part, you've negotiated the deal, you've got it signed. There's still some other small steps that you have to do, but you can actually do this without even looking at the property. You don't even have to go to the property. Oh, that's exciting, folks. Imagine how nice that'd be to sit in your comfortable apartment and just be on the telephone and doing this with DocuSign. Well, guess what? You can do it. You can do it. And that is one of the cool things about wholesale real estate. So, all right, let's talk about how this works. Let us discuss, how does this work? It is so interesting. Well, step one, you need to find a motivated seller. You want to find a motivated seller. That doesn't mean someone that says, I'm not going to take any lowball offers. If you find that guy, you just leave and find another seller. But if you find one that explains they're going through a divorce, they're going through a hard time, they've lost their jobs, they can't keep up the payments on the property, they are about to get foreclosed on. These are the things that are like a bell going off where you know, hey, that's a motivated seller. Maybe they inherited a property. Maybe they're in a situation where they said, you know, my dad left me this rental house and I don't want that. It's in another city. I don't want that. I just want cash. They just want cash. Well, you're going to give them the cash. You're going to give it all to them. So with this, you will sign a contract to purchase it for less than 75% of market value. You might sign a contract to purchase for less than 50%. Hell, you might buy the house for $1,500. That could happen. I've bought houses that cheaply, you know, so these options always exist. So, but in your contract, you are going to be so smart and you're going to put in what's called a weasel clause. And a weasel, if you look at the picture to the right, that's a little animal and it's very nimble. It can move up, it can move down, it can move, and they are hard to catch. So you're going to put a weasel clause in your contract. And that allows you to then, if you can't find a buyer, you hold up your weasel clause and you say, I know I said I was going to buy it, but, and now we'll go through that. Let's look at some examples of weasel clauses. So I've included here some examples for you. Now, I don't want you to think that these are the only weasel clauses, because you can make up all sorts of weasel clauses, but I'm just making it easy where I give you a few weasel clauses. You still should talk with your lawyer. You should still make sure it's all correct, but I'm pretty sure these will work. So what you do is you put in subject to approval. This agreement is contingent upon the buyer's written approval of the property inspection obtained at the buyer's expense within 10 business days from the execution of the contract. You actually probably should make that longer than 10 days, make it 30 days or 60 days, but that's an example. Financing contingency. This contract is contingent upon the buyer securing satisfactory financing within 30 days of the effective date at a competitive market interest rate and terms acceptable. Now, notice where it says to buyer, it's acceptable to you. So if the interest rate that you can get on that loan is not acceptable, you're not going to have to continue. Your due diligence period, you'll have a due diligence period of, say, 15 days from the effective date of the contract, where you can investigate the property, you can cancel the agreement for any reason or for no reason at all without penalty. Yeah, absolutely. Subject to your partner's approval. This is always a fun one. You've got a business partner. You can't do the deal until your business partner approves it, but that's another weasel clause. Sale of another property. You're going to buy this property contingent on the sale of your other property. So if your other property doesn't sell, you can't buy this one. So these are some examples of how that works. So now let's talk about now you know what to do in principle. Of course, there's a few more details, but you understand the basic concept. Now we're going to talk about off market versus on market. And I see so many investors that wander around lost in the wilderness. And what they do when they're lost is they pick up their phone and they call a real estate agent because they think, well, a real estate agent knows about real estate and I want to do wholesaling, so I'll just call them. Well, folks, that's not a wise idea. That is not going to help you in your quest, because you and the real estate agent have totally different goals. The real estate agent's goal is to lock you into a contract to make sure that you have a big loss if you don't buy. They're going to try to get what's called earnest money out of you. They're going to try to make that a high amount because the real estate agent doesn't like investors. It's not normal for a real estate agent to like investors. They only like investors that have all cash and are willing to pay full market price. Maybe if it's a big pension fund, maybe if it's a big fund that has a lot of money, then a real estate agent can like them. But you're going to avoid those properties. And we will talk here about why off market, such a great thing to know about.
Okay. So now we're going to talk about off-market real estate versus on-market real estate and which is the right choice. So you want to avoid on-market deals. So anything that you see that's advertised for sale publicly, maybe it's on the multiple listing service. Maybe there's a real estate agent that put a sign in the yard. Maybe if it's a commercial deal, it's on LoopNet advertised for sale. You want to avoid these things. You don't want to go near them. You're just going to use a lot of your time and energy chasing the deals that all the other investors are chasing, okay? You've got to find your own deals, and you only want off-market. Now, why off-market? Okay, first of all, let me say this. Is it possible to find a deal every now and then that's on the market? Yes, it is. Is it possible to make money on a listed deal? Of course it's possible, but it's a lot harder. You want to stack the odds in your favor. You don't want to be doing this the hard way. You want to do it the easy way. And the easy way is you go out there and you generate your own leads for motivated sellers, and then you're going to sort them to determine which sort of sellers are motivated, which are not motivated. And I'll go through that in another lesson, how to quickly do that. But let's just go through it again, because I want to make it crystal clear. If you get on the internet and you see it as for sale, where there's some real estate agent that has a listing that they're offering it, you don't call that agent. Don't waste your time. You don't even want to talk to them. It's just a waste of time. Basically, if you pick up the phone and call the real estate agent is going to try to sell you on buying the property. That's what they do. So they're going to use all of their sales skills to try to sell you. So if you tell them you're an investor, they're going to encourage you to make an offer. Then they're going to tell you that they want to see, that you've got all the money lined up, ready to go, and they're going to do their absolute best sales pitch. You don't want any of that. You don't even want to talk to them. You're just wasting time. Don't chase those deals. That's not an effective way. It's so much easier to find an off-market deal. What's an off-market deal? An off-market deal is one that is not advertised as for sale. So you don't want to go and make 100 lowball offers on listed properties. The reason you don't want to do that is it's going to waste either a lot of your time, or if you've got some real estate agent that's a new agent that you've convinced them that it's a great idea to work with you as a buyer's agent, where they're going to go out and make offer after offer at 50 or 60 cents on the dollar. It's just going to waste time. Because even on the ones where you do occasionally get the seller to say yes, there's normally a bunch of offers that come in right at the wrong time that are lined up with, fantastic financing, proof of funds, all of this. You don't make life hard. Go for the easy money, and the easy money is off market. So don't pay any attention to what the other investors are doing. Don't worry about it. You're going to keep it simple. And basically, you could do something as simple as going and knocking on doors in a particular neighborhood. And when the person opens the door, you could say, hey, I'm looking to buy a property in this neighborhood, and I wanted to see if you guys might consider selling this house. If you go knock on 100 doors, you're going to find a deal. You go knock on 300, 400, 500 doors, you're going to find a deal. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that you need to go knock on doors. I'm just using it as an example. There's many ways to build a pipeline. But if you go to a house and there's a for sale sign and it has a real estate agent, don't just walk on by. Don't waste your time talking to them. Don't call the real estate agent. Leave that to the ones that want to do that. That's the hard way. Okay. Every now and then I meet these guys that are investors and they tell me about, how good they're doing with on-market deals. If an investor has the skill to make money with an on-market deal where he has to go and successfully compete against all the other investors that are chasing deals, and he successfully wins, that guy's got a lot of talent. And if he takes that same talent and energy to be able to apply it to off-market deals, he'll do 10 times better, if not 100 times better. And the other thing, you don't think that these real estate agents are going to necessarily help you. They just are trying to size up if you can actually buy it. Now they'll be friendly. I'm not saying, there's a wide range of agents. Some will help, maybe some won't, but I'm just trying to make it short and simple where you don't waste a lot of time. That real estate agent, if you do successfully get the seller to accept what they would have accepted, your crazy offer of, $10 in earnest money or nothing, and it's all contingent on you getting a loan. That real estate agent, number one, he's probably, when he presents the offer, he's going to basically talk down about it to the seller because he's embarrassed to present it because he knows it's a flimsy offer. And he doesn't, he feels bad about even presenting your low ball offer. So what you want to do is you want to basically deal with the seller directly. And the beauty of it is a seller can say yes. And a seller doesn't always have all the latest analysis in terms of exactly what the property's worth. And sometimes if you just ask them, what would you sell the property for me, to me for, they will say a number that is different than the market value. But since you didn't come in and ask them, you said, what would you sell it to me for? You very often will get a surprise where they may quote a different thing. When we go through the negotiation piece, I'll cover that in a lot more detail, how to quickly get that done. But don't waste any time chasing on-market deals. If after you make money with off-market deals, if you want to make it harder on yourself, go chase some on-market deals. Okay. And then you can do that if that's entertaining to go through that extra hassle.
So that's basically one of the key things that stops most people is they look for deals in the wrong area. So now, why off market? Let's just review this because this seems to be the thing that trips up so many new investors is they can't get it through their head. They are like sucked into calling a real estate agent. And I see them all the time crash and burn where the first thing they do when they decide they want to be an investor is they call a real estate agent. So avoid any real estate that's advertised for sale. You want to be negotiating with the seller directly. Don't mess around with those off-market deals. And if an investor that you meet tells you about how great he does buying listed properties, he may be a very, very talented investor, but that same guy would do 10 times, if not 100 times better if he'd get off of the listed deals and go find off-market deals. And then the other thing that you need to be aware of is if you make the mistake of having a real estate agent involved in the transaction in most of these wholesale type deals, the agent can very easily poison the deal. And they will do that for a lot of reasons. Part of it is they sometimes can't stand watching you pull this off. It just bothers them too much because they're thinking, wait a minute, I'm the real estate agent. I've got the experience. How is this guy running circles around me and making all of this money when he doesn't? I can't stand it. I'm going to warn the seller. I'm going to tell the seller not to do it. And I'm going to get a different buyer that's going to buy it the correct way. So you have to be aware of that. The agent ego can poison your deal. And then just avoid them. Just don't mess with them. Yeah, you can look at banging on doors. I'm not actually suggesting anyone do this. But I'm pointing it out as an example. And you definitely wouldn't want to do this in a dangerous neighborhood. But if you're in a really nice neighborhood, you could even do door-to-door checking on, hey, if anybody wants to sell. Another classic is bandit signs. Oh, these are fun. You could have bandit signs made up and you could put them out yourself, or you could get some kids to do it for you. where they go and they put these signs by busy roads. And the signs, they say things like behind on payments, stop foreclosure. So when somebody's driving by, they see, wait, I'm behind on my payments. I'm going to stop my foreclosure. I will call. And this happens. This absolutely happens. You can also say things like, don't waste your money fixing an old house. Sell it for fast cash. And they say, you know, that sounds good. I don't really want to waste my money fixing that. I'll just sell it for fast cash. And then, of course, a classic is any house, any condition, cash offer. You're letting them know, you're communicating with the community. I'm here to provide a valuable service of offering to buy your assets for cash. And that always gets the attention if it's advertised properly. So now let's talk about other methods to find motivated sellers. Let's imagine that you don't want to go out. You don't like walking around. You want to do it from your house. Well, folks, that can be done. What you're going to want to do is you're going to find people that are advertising a property for sale, where it's the owner, not a real estate agent, when you see one that's for sale by owner. And it will have an ad that says property for sale. And you're going to call up on that property they have for sale, but you're going to do a little trick. And I'm going to show you a little trick. Instead of, the conversation is going to go like this. You're going to call up the seller and you're going to say, hi, my name is Ben. I saw you were advertising a house for sale at 123 Main Street. Unfortunately, I'm not interested in that particular house, but I wanted to ask if you might have any other real estate you want to sell. And if you make that call 20 times, you're going to find one that says, yes, I've got another property. So the seller will say, you know, I do have another house that I was thinking about putting on the market, but it's not listed for sale yet. I've got it rented. There's tenants that are in it. And then you're going to say, that sounds great. What kind of a house is it? What's the address? I'm interested. I want to make you an offer. So you have cut out all of your competition. Nobody even knows that it's for sale. And you did it from home. You didn't even go look at anything. So this is a good method if you prefer investing without leaving your house. Okay, other methods that you can find motivated sellers with. Well, there is online advertising. That is a great one. And I've got a particular company that I recommend that I think you should check out if you want to do that online advertising. It is a company called Faith Digital Media. They are in the UK, but they can help you if you're in the US. They are so talented with that online advertising on Facebook and on LinkedIn. Just contact Christopher or Joshua, and they can help you design a plan so that your ads start appearing. Where online, it will say something like behind on payments, stop foreclosure, or it might say any house, any condition, cash offer. So you can reach out to them, and I included the website there, but I highly, highly recommend them. Okay, another classic, and this will work in whatever country you're in. If you're in the United States, if you're in the United Kingdom, if you're in Germany, if you're in Poland, imagine you're in Poland. You know, let's say you're in Warsaw, Poland. You would go and you might find the official government agencies that keep track of violations, a violation when a property owner has not taken care of their property. Maybe they let it get run down. The city's not happy. And the city has told them, hey, you need to fix that. You've got a violation and a fine. So these sorts of lists that exist, the cities are always trying to make sure that they keep things in order because there's rules and regulations and the city knows about that. So the city will put all these violations out, and there's an Excel spreadsheet somewhere that the city has that has hundreds. If you're in a big city, especially if you're in a big city like Warsaw, there will be thousands of properties that have violations that are just waiting for someone to call up. It could be a person, if you don't speak Polish so well. Let's say you're doing this in Poland. Maybe you don't speak Polish so well. Well, you could get someone that speaks Polish. Maybe you get a secretary, maybe you get a college student, and you would have them call these phone numbers and say, hey, I'm interested in I work for an investor and he's very interested in your property located at 123 Main Street in Poland. He is wanting to know if you would sell the property. And then the homeowner will say, I've been thinking about that. I've been thinking about that, because they're probably not enjoying having the city on their back. Because when the city gets on their back, it can be hard to get them off, because the only way to get them off is to basically pay money to fix whatever the violation is. So this can happen. So then you start accumulating a list. And then, of course, you also want to ask other questions at that time. You might say, well, the investor, he can pay you a fair price. That's what we're going to use the term fair price. But he always wants it where the seller will participate in the financing. He can do a down payment. Would you be interested in that? Would you be interested in the financing? That's also good, because if they already have a loan in place, why should you go get a new loan? You can work out a deal. You're going to do it legally. You're going to have them sign documents that it's okay for you to make payments on their loan. Now, their bank may not like this, but if they sign those documents, I have never in all of my life, even one time, in all of the transactions I've ever been involved in, seen a bank not take a payment. So if the debt is in the name of Joe Smith, and if you have, say your name is Clemens, just for an example, if you're making a payment and it's on Joe Smith's loan, the bank will take that. They will take that, and they will not foreclose on Joe because Joe's making his payment. Well, technically Clemens is making Joe's payment, but the bank has other problems. They've got a bunch of deadbeats that aren't paying. They're not worried about whose name is on the check. They're just happy that somebody's paying. So that is real important. So you need to be able to quickly sort. You got to sort the good from the bad. There's the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we're going to talk about how you sort them out. How do you know if it's good, bad, or ugly? Well, motivated sellers, they will tell you they are motivated. They won't make it a secret. They will use certain language. And the key thing that you need to understand is it's not really your job to make them motivated. Believe me, over the years, I've tried everything to make sellers motivated. And sometimes you can make them a little bit motivated, sometimes. But it's much easier, instead of trying to, with words, make them motivated, to just find one that already is motivated. So don't take it as your job to make them motivated. Just let them know that, hey, if you're talking to them and they're like, I'm not going to sell my property, I'm happy with my property, then you say, okay, no problem. If you get more motivated in the future, please call me, but please know up front, I'm not a full price buyer, because I have to make a profit. This is my business. I'm sure you can understand. I mean, you make a profit in your business. I do the same here, but I make a fair profit. Then they will call you. Now, another thing that you can do is the other mistake is you have to control your tongue. So when your tongue wants to shoot out your offer, you have to not let it do that. And you have to let them say the first number. So you're going to say, they're going to say, well, what do you want to pay for my property? And you're going to say, you've got a few things you can say. You could say, well, I want to do something that's a workable deal for you. What would work for you? And then if they're like, look, you came to me and you told me you wanted to make an offer, how much are you going to pay for it? Then you could say, well, sir, listen, if it was my choice, I'd pay you $1 for it. That's what I want to buy it for, but I know that's never going to work and you'd be insulted. I don't want that. I want to be respectful to you. What do you want for it? What would work for you as a deal? How much are you looking to get, sir? What do I have to do? And then let them talk. Let them talk. So, but you're not going to say the first offer, because you lose in most cases when you say the first offer. Okay. You also need to do time management. Now, I've had deals when I first was starting where I would start to negotiate with someone, and I was so proud of my negotiating skills where, go as many hours as it took. I one time negotiated an entire day with a guy at a table about a particular deal, just sitting at the table, us arguing about what the price would be. And after like 8 or 10 hours, no result, nothing happened. Now that is not the end of the world to do that, but you don't want to make that your normal habit. You want to limit your negotiation to maybe 30 minutes, maybe 60 minutes. If you really want to, you can go longer than that. But if you get a guy that's not motivated enough and you try to convert them by words into being motivated, a lot of times you're just wasting time. It's better to just prioritize, go on to another deal. That is so, so important, folks. So here's how you can know. I made a little chart here so that you can kind of figure out who you're dealing with. So first, we'll take an example of a seller that is not motivated. The seller might tell you something like, well, for the right price, we might sell, but it would have to be a really good price. If you hear that, that means just leave. Don't waste more time on that guy. He's not motivated. But if the seller says something like, I'm 3 months behind on my payments, I lost my job and I need to sell. I don't care if I get anything out of it. I'll sell it for what I owe. That's a motivated seller. So right there, that's a motivated seller if you hear something like that. If you have a not motivated seller, might say something like, you're welcome to bring me an offer and I'll consider it. Anything is for sale for the right price. That's not a motivated seller. Just leave that guy. Just tell him, hey, look, just don't waste your time on that one. Go find another one. But if you hear one that says, I inherited this property and I really don't want to fix it up. I mean, it's got a bunch of stuff in it already. I don't know where I'm going to move all those things. And I don't want to deal with those real estate agents and paying a commission. I don't even know what I'm going to get out of it after that. You can be the hero. You can say, well, how about if I buy it and I'll buy it with everything in it? Then you can just get your cash. You won't have to move anything. I'll just take it with everything in there. And I've bought a lot of properties that way. So people like the convenience factor. And if they don't have to deal with all that furniture and all of those things, they can just leave all of that and you've solved their problem. They can get their money and they can forget about it and they can move on because their time's valuable. They don't want to waste their time looking through all of that stuff, and you're providing a service to them. Another example is if you hear a seller say, I'm not motivated. They like to say that, I'm not motivated. And I'm not going to take any low ball offers. And if they spit it out with a little bit of a energy on it, and then they may say, if you want to make me a good, serious offer, I'll consider it. That guy's not motivated. Leave that guy alone. Be gone. If you hear one that says, we're moving from Texas. I got a new job. We're moving from Texas to Florida and we need to sell. We already purchased another house there in Florida. We need to sell or the house will be vacant. You can be the hero. You can be the hero and buy that property. So that's how you sort them out. So now let's talk about some other things here. How do you actually fill out the contract? So let's imagine. Well, first, let me mention something else here. Earnest money. Okay, this is a good one. Okay. So earnest money is something that real estate agents love because it makes it hard for you to leave because they got your earnest money. They got you in an earnest money armbar. You got caught in an earnest money armbar when you weren't even expecting it. So if you can avoid that, the best way to avoid that earnest money armbar is you just are not going to put any earnest money down. Now, you might think that would be impossible, but you would be wrong. It's very possible to get people to sign a contract without earnest money. And it actually just is a matter of explaining it where it makes sense. So if the seller says, I want earnest money, I need earnest money. And you say, what for? You're not going to get the earnest money because if I can't buy it, I'll just cancel the contract. They're not going to release it to you anyway. It's going to sit at the title company. So you're not going to get the earnest money. Even whether it's 500 in earnest money, whether it's 5,000 in earnest money, whether it's 10,000, you're not going to get any of it unless the deal closes. Because it's just the way that it is. It'll just sit at the title company. Did you know the title company's not going to release that to you? That's the way it works. Title company doesn't release it. So this basically is the type of conversation you would have. And you could say, look, you're worried that if you do the deal with me, that you'll find somebody else that's a better buyer? Yeah, because what if I do the deal with you and somebody better comes along? No problem. I'll give you a kick out option. I will give you a kick out option where if you find a better one before I buy this one, you can just kick mine out. I don't care. Go ahead, try to sell it to someone else. If you don't get a better offer before I close on it, I'll just release you from the contract. It's called a kick out option. So you can offer a kick out option. And normally they just give up and they'll just say, okay, I'll do it. I'll sign it. And then at that point, you've gotten it with no earnest money. And that's just something that's important. It may not be important to everyone. Some people lose earnest money. I've never lost earnest money. But a lot of people that I've done business with that have tried to play around with me on deals, they've lost earnest money multiple times. So the point is, if you don't put it on the table, you're not going to lose it. So just keep that in mind. And that's an important thing to know. You've got your weasel clauses, you got everything. So now let's take a look at an actual assignment of contract. I'm going to show how you would fill these out. It'd be the same for whatever country you're in. The language might change, but this will basically be how they look. Of an assignment of contract. So let's imagine that you found a property that has a value of 100,000 and you found a motivated seller that agreed to sell the property to you for 65,000. So you said, okay, Mr. Seller, I'm going to pay 65,000. And then that was on January 5th, just as an example. Now let's say that 20 days have passed and you have found an end buyer. Now you found somebody that's another investor that has money and you don't really want this asset anyway. So you want to sell your contract to the other investor and then have the other investor pay you $10,000. So for the other investor, it's still a good deal because the property's worth 100,000 and they're able to pay 75,000. So they still got 25,000 in equity. It's a good deal for you because you got 10,000 and you didn't have to do anything except sign some papers. So here's how you would do this. So you would come in and first it's going to reference when was the original contract. Let's say it's December 25th. Okay. Between a signor, that is your name, and assignee. This is name of investor buying your contract. Okay. Assignor is the buyer under a certain contract for sale of real estate dated. Remember, you did this back on January 5th in this example. Given and executed by, this is the name of the seller. Two, okay, the buyer, you are your name. Dated, it was dated on January 25th. Sale of the real property, 123 Main Street. Then the assignee is, this is the name of investor buying your contract. And then this is, let's pretend the street is 2020 West 5th Street, now your name, because you're the assigner, you've negotiated a purchase price of 65,000. Okay. You're going to charge your friend or the other investor 10,000. This should be 10,000. Okay. The total purchase price is 75,000. Okay. So now you're going to flip this where you're going to ask for money. You're going to say, listen, I need 10,000 up front. Your friend or the other investor is going to say, I'm not going to pay 10,000 up front. I'm going to pay it when it's due at closing. You're going to negotiate back and forth and you say, well, at least pay 5,000. At least pay 5,000, at least pay 2. You settle on some amount. Let's just say you just put it at 1,000, but you want to try to get some money out of them before closing so that if it doesn't close, you've got it done. And then basically everybody signs it and that's it. That's what it approximately looks like. Now your geographic area, whatever country you're in, I assure you, whatever country you're in, there is this type of a form. It may be in a different language, but assignment of contracts fairly common in contract law across other countries. So that's basically how that looks. Okay, now we've gone through the presentation. I've got 2 announcements and then I'm going to stop the recording and I'll take questions. So the first announcement is every Thursday we have passive income Thursday. And this is something where if you're watching this video online and you think that sounds interesting, go to benjaminzmeller.com and fill out the contact form, and we'll get you these invitations. We love new people to come to Passive Income Thursday. One of them is with a company called Alamo Mortgage Holdings. Alamo Mortgage Holdings is a company that offers passive income mailbox money to our investors. And we do that by actually purchasing debt. We purchase debt in America. We purchase mortgages, packages of mortgages, mortgage debt, and you can earn passive income. Come to the webinar and learn. You can also look at andesite blue bonds. These are just fantastic. This company is a UK company, and it is offering passive income bonds where an investor can earn passive income, mailbox money. And then andesite blue actually is investing into the reconstruction of Ukraine across different industries. We're doing so much to help Ukraine, the reconstruction, and it's something where you can have the benefit of knowing that your money is going to do good work. It's a fantastic opportunity. You're welcome to come to either of those. And then the last notice is, if you've got a burning desire to learn, if you're thirsty for knowledge, you should reach out. I do offer mentoring, so I can help you if you want to up your investing game. And by the way, if you're an investor and you think you already know everything, you should have a phone conversation with me first. Let's talk on the phone and let's see if maybe I can show you some things you haven't seen, because I have a feeling that you may be pleasantly surprised. And if you're a new investor, I can get you with rapid progress, much faster progress to your success. So that is it for our meeting. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and then I'm going to open it up for any questions. I welcome questions. Come one, come all.